Hello, I'm Mark Childhouse, and because things on the internet seem to lose their date references pretty quick, today is Wednesday, November 15th, 2023, and for those of us that are in Southern California like I am, today is a day of note. In the last 90 minutes we have had 2,300ths of an inch of rain and more to come. On October 1st, 2023, which was a Sunday, we visited the Lyon Air Museum at the John Wayne Airport in Santa Ana, California. Really enjoyable visit. If you go up there, I would plan on maybe 2 to 2.5 hours, and no snack bar, no food facility inside, but you can go in and out of the museum once you pay admission without a problem, free parking, and really enjoyed it. The day we were up there, it was raining, and they were hosting, I believe it was the Huntington Beach Airshow. They had a number of aircraft that were not museum exhibits in their hangar, keeping them out of the weather. And I'm not sure if that moved airplanes that were supposed to be on display out, put them someplace else. I'm not sure. This is a museum that because of where we are in Southern California, San Diego County, it was about a 2.5-hour drive, 2-hour drive to get up there. And because of that duration, I would plan this museum visit along with another place up there that has an appropriate time. Otherwise, we spent more time driving to and from than we spent at the museum. And getting back on Interstate 5 from the museum is fun because the GPS kept trying to get us up on the tollway, and we did not want to get up on the tollway. Okay, here's the videos. Some really beautiful restoration, maintenance, repair work done on these airplanes, and a nice museum. Child friendly. The docents around there were super, and the museum is child friendly. Let's get on with the video. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. I thought I took a picture of the outside of the building. It is in the Martin Aviation hangar at the John Wayne Airport in Santa Ana, California. And this museum, and here's one of the pamphlets for it, and the registration, the check-in counter, reception center. And this was a really nice, really clean museum, kind of small, and there were several signs around that there weren't aircraft or vehicles for, and they were also hosting an air show. I believe it was the Huntington Beach Airshow that day, so there were some aircraft in their hangar being protected from the weather, and possibly those because of that, aircraft that should have been there, should have been on display, weren't. Anyways, it was enjoyable, and here's our videos for it. I'm going to start with the aircraft first, and there was a C-47, which is the military version of the DC-3, the Douglas DC-3, and there was also a Douglas DC-3 there. And but the aircraft in this museum were in excellent condition. Talking to one of the docents, they try to keep the aircraft in airworthy condition, but due to age, special inspection requirements, etc., some of the aircraft are not airworthy. The C-47, you'll see as you go through this, was actually flying part of the air show. This is the museum's DC-3, the civilian version of the C-47. The C-47 had a cargo door, DC-3 had a smaller passenger door, C-47 had a reinforced floor for cargo. There were very few changes other than interiors, and when I was going through Southern Illinois University's aviation technology program, I worked on both the DC-3 and the C-47. Beautiful airplanes. My dad used to jump out of them as a paratrooper. The North American B-25 Mitchell bomber is the bomber that took off from the USS Hornet, did Tokyo with the Doolittle raid, did Japan, didn't do major damage, but sure shook the Japanese morale, as their homelands were not totally protected and isolated. The press releases said that this raid took off from our secret base in Shangri-La. This aircraft is in beautiful condition, and both the front and rear view of the radial engines that are on this airplane, I love radial engines. They're just fantastic devices. Their Douglas A-26 Invader, which is a beautiful aircraft, and it is one of the starring airplanes in the movie Forever. Absolutely beautiful. I was envious. These are the era of aircraft I would have loved to have flown. As close as I can come to this were the T-28, North American T-28 Trojan with the Navy as a trainer, and the Grumman C-1A Trader, which were beautiful aircraft. Their Invader was in beautiful condition. The Boeing E-75, no matter what you call it, the PT-13 Cadet or the Stearman, really nice. And one of the aircraft that did not have their usual beautiful signage. I really like the signage of the museum, and this is one of the signs that struck me as extremely important. It addresses the Cessna 01 Bird Dog. A number of museums have stated, or docents in museums have stated, that the Cessna 01 Bird Dog served in World War II. It did not. There were Taylorcraft, there were Luscombs, there were Pipers, a number of other small aircraft, but the Cessna 01 Bird Dog didn't start into production until 1950, according to signage, and then went into the Korean and Vietnam War and served very valiantly. Beautiful aircraft. I love the signage of the museum. North American Aviation produced two different aircraft which were basically the same, but the Navy had a few differences than the Army Air Corps version. The AT-6 Texan went into the Army Air Corps, and the SNJ went into the Navy, and they were very slightly different. My understanding is the SNJ had a rollover cage assembled for crashes. I'm not sure which one this was, but it's a beautiful airplane. I really like the signage at the museum, but trying to get good pictures of the signage was tough. The Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress World War II, designed by Boeing prior to World War II, as it was a flight was en route to Hawaii Hickam Air Force Base, Army Air Corps Base, during the attack on Pearl Harbor. The Boeing B-17, though, was required in such quantities that a number of different companies produced them, and they all had their little idiosyncrasies. And talking to one of the docents, this B-17 was flying until a couple years ago. The FAA required a wing root, wing box, spar box inspection, which would cost like $1 million. The museum didn't have it. So being kept in beautiful condition, as close to airworthy as possible, but it will probably never fly again. The Beech C-45 Expediter, a version of the Beech 18, the Twin Beech, whatever. They had the cockpit simulator, the cockpit training device there. They didn't have the entire airplane. I climbed up in it. I've worked on these. I've actually flown a couple of flights in these. I will tell you that this is the only plane that I was truly terrified of flying, not because of the design of the aircraft, but because of the maintenance that was done on the aircraft. And when I landed, I was so disappointed with the quality of the aircraft maintenance-wise that I never even put the flights in my logbook. These next couple of panels show why, one of many reasons why the Allies, and in particular the U.S. forces and the U.S. assets, were victorious during World War II. We produced thousands of aircraft, millions of tons of bombs, hundreds of ships, and we outproduced every other country on the face of the earth, and probably most of them combined. It was a rainy day, and they were hosting, I believe it was the Huntington Beach Airshow. There were a number of aircraft, and here they are, that were in the hangar or on the ramp being serviced or assisted by the museum docents, the museum staff. The disappointing thing was nobody knew anything about these aircraft, or would talk about them. The pilots just, they were in their little area and they didn't want to talk to anybody about anything. When I did air shows, I wanted to talk to anybody who wanted to talk to me. There were quite a number of vehicles on display, not all associated with the military, or didn't seem to be. And I'm going to start out with the Jeeps. Jeeps were general purpose, GP, as you can see in the title, which I like the signage for this. That's how the word Jeep came about. It didn't come from the cartoon character with Popeye. Didn't come from anything else. It came from the designation GPW, which was general purpose wheeled vehicle or something, and it was also referred to occasionally as a 3/8 ton utility vehicle. Here's a 1941 Dodge WC6 half-ton command and reconnaissance truck, and if you want to challenge me on the 3/8 thing associated with the Jeep, and that's what I know from research, this thing is half-ton, and look at the size difference. Look at the beefiness difference. So this is capable of quote-unquote 1,000 pounds. The Jeep was capable of 600. Both good four-wheel drive, both good vehicles. Restoration, repair, 1930 Ford Model A Roadster pickup truck. This was beautiful. This is the type of restoration work which I would be proud to do. I can't do. I've tried, but this is one of the numerous vehicles that it was done in the museum or done for the museum, and it was absolutely beautiful work. From an era when cars had glass, I love this. 1931 Ford Model A Fathom. I think that's how it's pronounced, and another beautifully restored, maintained vehicle. And I understood these were roadworthy. I've never had anybody explain why the order is this way. 1922 Model T Roadster runabout, and really nice again, and great shape, whereas the Model A was in the 1930s. Not my alphabet. Another beautifully restored, maintained car. I didn't see any signs for it. I just know that it was a beauty. I'm going to guess probably 1935, 1939 time frame, and that's just a guess. This 1939 Mercedes-Benz Model G4 has a history to it. The history is associated with Adolf Hitler, not one of my heroes, and I've tried to cut the sign apart so that you can read the history. All of the vehicles, all of the items in the museum are beautifully restored, and this one just follows the trend. They look like they were coming off the showroom floor from a new manufacturer. The 1939 Tempo Vidal G1200 was an interesting vehicle. You have to look at it to appreciate exactly what it was. It had two engines, one in front, one in the rear, and where the spare tires were mounted in the center, they were on their own axles, free to spin. So if you came across something that would have grounded most car, this car could have gotten over it. Interesting design concept, interesting car. I agree museums should be preserving history, so I have no objection to this vehicle being here. But 1948 Divco Helms delivery truck, bakery delivery truck, really nicely restored. And it's an aviation museum, or it's a history museum, and I think it's more of a history museum than an aviation museum. I will believe the license plate. This is a 1938 Indian Chief motorcycle. There was no signage for it, and there wasn't a lot of signage for many of the motorcycles that were on display. I'm trying to piece the photos together as best I can with the motorcycles that I think they go with, and if I get them wrong, I'm sorry. All I could do was try. How about a 1945 Indian Chief motorcycle? We just saw the 1936 or 38. Well, I did like to ride motorcycles, and I owned 3 different ones. I was never one of the history guys. Oh, that's a 1948 Panhead, whatever. I'm assuming this is a World War II era Harley Davidson. There was no signage. If you're fighting a war, you build what needs to be built. And this NSU Ketten Crad HK 101 tracked motorcycle. If you want to see one of these in action, watch the movie Saving Private Ryan. Towards the end of the movie, one of these shows up. A 1943 Japanese motorcycle with the sidecar. Didn't see a whole lot of sidecars in Japan. As a matter of fact, never saw a sidecar in Japan. Saw a lot of motorcycles while we lived there for 5.5 years. No signage. Looking at the motorcycle, looking at the cylinders, I'm going to believe this is a German BMW. If not, it's a horizontally opposed engine sat at 90 degrees to the longitudinal axis of the motorcycle, which is a BMW tradition. Can't see the engine real well in this one, but the signage says it's a 1944 BMW R75. If I'm not mistaken, BMW still makes the R75 motorcycle. I think they made an R65 in the early 70s when I was looking for my motorcycle. The last motorcycle in the collection, I'm going strictly by the color. I assume this is a German motorcycle, and it's going to be followed by something that was one of a kind in the museum, a United States Army bicycle. There were several panels, several displays about the Medal of Honor. Just one of those things that irks me. It is not the Congressional Medal of Honor, it is the Medal of Honor. And the museum had several displays, as I said, and here they are. Here is, we're moving into another area of the museum. The museum, and you're going to see this, had several displays of conflicts, starting with, quote-unquote, the Great War. And when I saw this display, and I only have one photo that's associated, quote-unquote, with the Great War, I go back to words that my dad said: no war is great and no war is civil. And a lesson learned. There were quite a few panels, display cases, exhibits, whatever, associated with World War II. This one here shows a German fighter, or early fighter aircraft being towed out by its special little scooter. And there's things in here, and I'm just going to let you look at them, how we deployed the military both in the European War, European theater, and the Pacific theater. Stuff that was extremely sensitive at one time, now common, and in numerous displays, numerous museums. The Norden bomb site, long since replaced, but very effective at the time. And how much we produced, how we trained our people, a Browning M2 machine gun training aid and manuals, all sorts of stuff to view here. This particular set of panels seems to be associated with this Lieutenant Karl Kraus, and apparently he died in his consolidated B-24 bomber, the Liberator. And this has numerous bits of information about him, and I'm not sure if this navigator kit goes with him or not. I like having pictures of my wife at places we go just to prove that we went there together. There were several panels or displays regarding the Korean War. Unfortunately, as you can see, the glare on them is just horrendous, and you do the best you can, but you lose it sometimes. Several panels, several displays on the Vietnam War, so they completed that. I didn't see any on Desert Storm or any of the Iraqi, Afghan conflicts after this. This is Major General William Lyon, the founder of the museum, and for those of that don't understand military ranks, I'm going to explain it to you because it gets me confused. Starting at the lower end, the second lieutenant, then we go up to first lieutenant. That's the first promotion. Next promotion takes you to captain. Then you get major. Then you get lieutenant colonel. Then you get colonel, full bird colonel. Then you get brigadier general. Then you get major general, and then you get lieutenant general. And that's where I have the fun, because in the lower ranks, lieutenants are junior to majors, but major generals are junior to lieutenant generals. I will never understand that. If you do go to the Lyon Air Museum in Santa Ana, California, John Wayne Airport, make sure you get up to the balcony. There's a number of model cases up there, and here's some of them, and these are just really beautiful. Unfortunately, the glare is horrible. The museum is very clean, very well presented in its signage as a general rule. As I said, there were a couple of signs that there weren't displays for. There were a couple of displays there weren't signs for. The docents were extremely friendly. We really enjoyed it. It's kind of interesting to have your GPS get you there. And if you were going to go there, I would say plan on maybe 2 to 3 hours total. We didn't find any food facilities, any cafeteria, any canteen, any snack bars there at all, so be prepared for that. But you can walk in and walk out of the museum all you want once you pay, so you can have it out in your car if you want. We enjoyed it. We had fun with it. It was an enjoyable visit.